Welcome, 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 everyone. Well, it's past 6 o'clock, but I'll explain that in just a minute. Still is Monday night, though. That's good news. You're listening to the 82nd installment of the Age Out Angels Radio Hour on www.hamiltonradio.net, Channel 2. I'm your host, Greg Rapport. I'm the founder and executive director of Age Out Angels. We're a 501c3 nonprofit corporation that provides one-to-one mentors to vulnerable youth for the purpose of coordinating the care and services that they need to survive. We try to help youth avoid some of the horrible pitfalls that they're likely to face if they don't have a proper safety net. This program is brought to you every week at the same time, courtesy of Doc G, William Saunders, Ruben Rodriguez, and the fine people here at Hamilton Radio who allow us to use this airtime. Ruben is on the big board tonight. Robin is producing. So great to have both of you here, and so wonderful to have all of you at home. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've put together what I hope you will find to be an insightful and compelling view of the child welfare system. So get ready, because tonight on the radio hour, we're going to talk a little bit about what happens when nonprofit organizations attempt to help youth, but the youth just aren't responsive. Just because we build it doesn't automatically mean that they will come. Plus, it's time to exhale. I hope you're wearing your sweats tonight, because we get so serious here. And we have two fabulous guests tonight who are pretty serious themselves. They're serious about relaxation and taking care of that part of your overall health that can be literally damaged by stress. So we have Carol Rickard, a certified stressologist, is with us tonight and author of many, many books. And Tina Lamar, the founder of Sheltered Yoga, is here with us. Carol, welcome to the Age Out Angels Radio Hour.
Glad to be here.
Great to have you here, and welcome to you, Tina.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming. And I want everyone out there to stay with Hamilton Radio for the next 3 hours, because after me, Dr. Felicia Nays comes in for an hour of her program called The Argument, where she takes a stand on an issue, and you're welcome to call in to agree or disagree. And then after that, Troy Alexander comes in at 8 o'clock with what is usually a pretty uplifting message. A great way to end the evening. So keep it right here at Hamilton Radio. Now, if you would be so kind, take a moment, if you're listening on Hamilton Radio, and open a separate browser and find us on Facebook. Go to my name, Greg Rapport, and hit that share button, or better, email your whole address book and tell everyone out there to go to hamiltonradio.net, Channel 2. Tell everyone in your world what we're talking about tonight. What you're going to hear applies not only to every geographic region that this show reaches, but it applies to you personally. I mean, we're going to gear it a little bit more towards children, I think, than adults, but it applies to adults. And when I read Carol's book last week, it applied to me immediately. I felt guilty for not doing all of the cool things that are in there. So don't keep this private to yourself. Help us share it. Tell your friends. You know, there's a generation of youth out there who are being forgotten. And caring people like you and me can't sit still while that happens. And while you're doing that, let me remind you that we're here almost every Monday from 6 to 7 with the Age Out Angels Radio Hour. We have a great lineup of guests coming up. Next week, April 22nd, we'll have a packed studio in here. Ratisha Berthier, a therapist who specializes in trauma, will be joining us. And we'll continue our discussion about housing issues with Kalaine Tarantelli and Sarah Torian from Housing Initiatives of Princeton. On April 29th, we're going to spend an evening with Jill Bennis, a lady who actually raised foster youth, who will be on the phone to talk about her experiences as a foster parent. And I have to tell you, it's very difficult to get people who have raised foster youth to come on the show. It's just like too emotional an experience, and it seems to make them uncomfortable to relive it. So don't miss this rare opportunity to hear from Jill Bennis on April 29th. And on that same show, Michelle Tompkins is going to be in the studio with a few of her youth. She's Associate Director of Youth Services at a great local Trenton, New Jersey organization called Mill Hill. So she's going to bring some young people in, and we're going to talk about the mayor of Trenton's Summer Youth Employment Program. And the list just goes on and on and on. So be sure to tune in every Monday at 6 p.m. for our unfiltered look at the child welfare system and other related social services, because this is where you come to get the whole truth. And I promise that what you will hear tonight, you will not hear on the nightly news. And since we're live, you know, you can write into us during the show in the comments field on Facebook. You can call in if you want to join the conversation. Be as much a part of the show as you want. 609-807-2492 is the number, 609-807-2492. You can sit back and listen. You can be a part of the show. It's up to you. One other thing. I was fortunate enough to attend a workshop last Friday as part of a group that I'm in called the Homeless Youth Subcommittee. And basically, as the name suggests, it examines the plight of homeless youth. And I met some truly amazing young people there who survived despite being handed just one obstacle after another. And they were nice enough to open up to us about what a day-to-day life is like for a homeless child. And a few of them indicated that they might be willing to call into the show this week or maybe next, whenever they have like spring break from school. Because, yes, homeless children actually do go to school. That's a little known fact. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Jeannie Davis and Vernette Sherrill from the City of Trenton, Lori Morris and Robin Wilkins from Life Ties, Ben Thornton from Anchor House. And forgive me, there was a lady from the County Department of Human Services, and her name is just escaping me. So if I'm neglecting to mention anyone, send me an email and remind me, and I'll catch up to you next week. It was a pretty amazing group of youth. And they made a very deep impression on me, and I'm sure it would make a similar impression on you if you heard these stories. Which brings me to tonight's topic for the end of the show. But between now and then, perhaps you'd like to write in the comments field on Facebook and tell me your opinion about this. At Age Out Angels, we now have a couple of years' worth of mentoring under our belts, and generally speaking, I have to say it's going quite well. There are some mentors and youth who have grown into what can only be described as a family-loving, supportive relationship. And of course, kids go through changes. You know, they rely more heavily on their mentor until they get a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and then they think they're all grown up for a while, and then they break up and they need their mentor, to come and complain about why the other person was such a jerk. And that's kind of how life is as we know it, and so some of those relationships are going really well. But we've had more than one pregnancy. I have yet to meet a young person who isn't being treated for anxiety. Pretty typical family-like ups and downs. But there are a couple of people who just refuse to be helped. Or if they're being helped, they'll sabotage themselves at every single turn. And these people really aren't progressing. You have to say after 2 years, that they're not moving towards a goal. They're surviving by moving laterally through life. But they're not going towards any kind of an end game. So this gets frustrating for the mentors, who at some point, feel as though not only are they not having the desired effect on the youth, but their supportive stance actually enables the lateral movement. I had one mentor recently tell me that the youth started to act as though she was actually schooling the mentor. Like it's one thing to be ignored, and I understand that we have a phone call, and if you could ask him to wait just a minute and we'll let him on. It's one thing to, have your advice be ignored. It's another to be trying to lead a young person in the right direction, only to be told how wrong you are. So what do we do at that point? I'd love to hear your opinion, either by phone, 609-807-2492, or in the comments field on my Facebook page. I'll be happy to read your opinions on the air. If I don't see them in time, I'll read them in next week's show, and I'll tell you my thoughts on the subject in the last 5 minutes at the end of the show. Once again, the call-in number tonight is 609-807-2492. Please hit that share button on Facebook. Stay right where you are. I understand we have a caller, and this is our first night in a brand new studio. And if the caller comes through, I will be absolutely amazed. Do we have a caller on the line?
Caller's on the line.
Okay, that was Robin's voice. Caller, can you speak? Can I hear you?
Yes, you can hear me.
All right. Now, are you gonna tell me a name, or are you gonna be anonymous, caller?
I'm gonna tell my name.
Okay, then tell us your name.
My name is Andy Silver.
Okay, Andy. And Andy, you were one of the young people that I met at the meeting last Friday, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So tonight's topic is really sort of more about stress than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about the stress of what it was like when you experienced homelessness?
It was hard to cope with being homeless. It was hard to realize about the moving place to place on and off. And it was hard to not see home a lot.
How frequently did you move?
About every 6 months.
Every 6 months, and like, where did you stay? Like, what kind of places did you stay at?
Residentials, group homes, different places.
Okay, so were you by yourself or were you with a family?
But I was with by myself at a young age, but then I moved from different areas, I would say.
So you were by yourself at what age?
6 to 7.
6 to
15 to 14.
Uh-huh. And so were you placed in someone's home? Is that how that worked?
No, I was placed into like the system.
Okay. And then the system found a home for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was temporary.
Yes.
Okay, so what was that like when you, like, how many different places have you lived in?
So it's been about 10 stays in each and every state. About 6 months I have moved.
Wow. And is it always in New Jersey or have you been in other states as well?
I've been in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, different about stretch.
So you have to change schools every time?
Switch schools a lot, different schools. Like I moved to one story. I moved from Alloway all the way up to different places.
And when you switch schools, and by the way, whoever's beating someone up in the background, please ask them to stop.
You want me to go somewhere quiet?
We'll go upstairs or whatever.
When you move from school to school, is it very difficult for you to keep up with your studies?
Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, sorry. Repeat your question.
Is it when you move from school to school? Is it hard for you to keep up with the work?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I have to repeat the same grade and the same thing all over again. Repeat the same subjects.
So how old will you be when you graduate high school? Do you know?
18.
You'll be 18 when you graduate high school. Okay, so that's not horrible. Now, are you thinking college or trade school? What are you thinking about doing?
Trade school. I got accepted into SciPec.
You got accepted into, that's a vocational program.
Correct.
And what is it that you're going to be studying there?
Baking and dining.
Baking and dining.
Nice.
Okay, so we're gonna stay close to you over the
Yeah.
years, I think. Baking and dining sounds like
That sounds good.
someone we could be friends with, don't you think? Baking and dining. Okay, so what do you want our audience to know about being in your
I
situation?
want them to know, even though you move place to place, you can't be for the person.
Dude,
Look
your
at
call's
yourself as
breaking
a-
up. Your call's breaking
Be
up.
more. Be more independent and be yourself. Don't look at the other person's perspective. Look at your own perspective.
So you're talking to other children saying be strong.
Yes.
Interesting. But what about adults? What do you want adults to know about what you've gone through?
I want them to know, even though I've gone through the same, I want them to know how I made success along the way. I want them to do the same thing.
How did you do that? How did you make success along the way? That really inspired me right now. You just told me that you took a lemon and you made lemonade. So how do you do that?
Mm-hmm. I turn my negatives and look at the positive more than the negatives.
Amazing.
But I looked at my family more than I've looked at myself, because my family doesn't look as me as the person I am now, but they look at me as who I am. They don't look at me as a bad person.
Mm. Did you ever think you were a bad person?
No,
Good.
never.
That's good. Because, I mean, we hear these stories about kids who are in homes and if one little thing goes wrong, you get kicked out of the home, you get sent to a different home, and that can make a person feel like they're bad even when they're not. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I've been in that situation, but I always had this like a save in my life that people said he doesn't deserve this, he doesn't deserve that. But the situation is, if you look at it that way, you're going to have a hard feeling on how to look at the other parts of how you're supposed to improve.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
How old are you now?
I am 17.
You got a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
I got to
Mhm.
tell you, this is radio. So what you guys don't know is that this young man is very charismatic.
Ah.
Okay, he's got a smile that lights up a room. And tell me if I'm
Thank
wrong,
you.
Andy. He's got a smile that lights up.
It's big, yeah,
It's big.
yeah.
He's got personality to spare. You know.
Mhm.
Good for
man.
you.
Very tall.
So where do you
very
see
tall.
yourself in like 5 or 10 years?
Me opening my restaurant and becoming a manager and a chef at my own restaurant, owning a sports bar.
Oh yeah. Oh, I hope we see you on Shark Tank.
Thanks.
That would be great. All right, Andy, listen, I want to talk to you again in another show, okay? So I'm going to let you go for now.
Mhm.
But
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I want to reserve the right to have you come back on at another time, okay?
Mhm.
All right,
Sounds
pal.
great.
I'll be in touch. Thanks. You have a good night.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Amazing.
That's a resilient
Wow.
Yeah.
young fellow, don't you think?
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
So good. It's so difficult to go from negative to positive in your mind.
That and the way he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so difficult.
He's firm with it.
You have to have a lot of tools that you can pull from. You have to have a lot of structure,
Yeah.
a lot of support to be able to. It's amazing.
Absolutely. So we're talking about stress
Amazing.
here. We're talking about stress, and I'm looking at Carol Rickard, who is
yeah.
a stressologist. So I figure she has more stress than the rest of us, or at least did at one point.
My goodness, I certainly did at
and
one point.
of course, today is tax day.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I was, close to at the
Yeah.
last night.
That's
I'm
right. I
on-
was doing it yesterday.
I'm on 2 hours of sleep here. Talk about
No.
stress. Everyone at the post office grumbling and cursing. That's what
Yep.
the line at the post office
Yeah.
looked like today.
I was just there before here, and it was a mess.
Yeah. Imagine being the people at the post office
Yeah.
working.
So, oh yeah. So I read your book, 60 Seconds,
To less stress.
60 Seconds to Less Stress, and I want you to tell people what some of the elements of
Well,
it are.
Well, I think, the element, really, the kind of motive behind it is to give you the power to be able to do something about stress. For decades, they've taught stress management in corporations, and it just, hasn't worked so well. But personally, 17 years ago, I started a job I loved. I felt guilty getting paid to go to work. And then 8 months into the job, I had migraines 3 weeks in a row and landed in the doctor's office. And the embarrassing part is that I wasn't doing what I was teaching. I was teaching stress management to the patients in the hospital, but I kind of wasn't using the tools myself. And I had a super busy day, and that was my excuse. I have no time. I have no time. I have no time. And I decided that I had to make time. So I started with just 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and developed a system that ended up working. And that's the idea of this is, if you take a soda bottle and you shake it up, right, that pressure builds up inside. And there are
Absolutely.
two critical points about that is that once the pressure gets in the bottle, it does not go anywhere until it comes out again. And the other thing is it will stay there until we release it. So it doesn't go anywhere on its own, and it will stay there until we release it. The same thing happens with stress. From the moment you wake up in the morning, as your day goes on, life shakes you up, and the pressure builds up inside of you. And it doesn't go anywhere on its own, and it stays there until you release it.
Yeah.
And that's the idea is, and the safest way to release it, of course, thinking about a soda bottle, is you go just short little releases.
Okay.
That's the idea. It doesn't take a lot. And that's what I found. So if I did 30 seconds of my punching bag that was in my office for my patients, but it was really for me.
Okay.
Or, using some of the tools. And you mentioned it, we got to have a toolbox for life. I happen to call them life tools.
Can I ask you a question? Because actually, since I knew you were coming on the show, this has sort of been on my mind.
Yeah?
Is there such a thing as healthy stress?
Yes.
And okay, because what I'm thinking of is, when you do a stage show or something like that, right? And just before you go on, most people get this incredible rush of fear. It's a combination of fear, sweating, butterflies, whatever you want to call it. And you take that energy and channel it out, right, into the audience. And then there's a wonderful sort of exchange of energy. Are you giving yourself a heart attack at the same time when you're doing that?
I think what you're doing is you're taking and managing what that feeling is inside of you. I mean, we're all hardwired for stress, and so we can't stop it. We can't stop some of those responses. Like, have you ever gone on vacation, right, or been going somewhere on a trip, business, work, whatever, and that night before you were supposed to fly out, you couldn't sleep?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Because the simplest definition that I love to give about stress is it is our response to a change or a situation. And the change can be positive.
Anticipation.
It could be a positive change. The stress, it comes wrapped in some really marvelous packages. But 27 years ago, I actually had an addiction counselor tell me this. She's like, Carol, we need a little bit of stress. She said, imagine you need to have a little stress on the guitar string. You need to have a little stress on the piano string to make beautiful music. She said, but the problem is when it gets to be too much.
Right.
And so, yeah, there is healthy stress. The question is, are you managing it or is it managing you? And when I had the migraines, let me tell you, it was managing me. So.
I hear that. Yeah, I guess migraine is sort of a big red flag of...
Well, we were talking a little bit earlier, and what happens is, and this is kind of cool, when I do speaking in a presentation or a talk, I usually have a bottle of soda with me, and I ask people to shake it up. And the foam, it's usually root beer, so you can see the pressure builds up inside. And it was a gazillion years ago, I retired a bottle because it didn't foam up so well. 4 months later, I went out to my garage, and it had imploded. The plastic had started to shrink in on itself, which is what migraines are. There's two ways. There's two ways stress takes control. One way is that it comes out, and you say things or do things that you can't stop.
Yeah.
Or two, it stays in and it hurts you. And so that could be, I like to think in terms of stress bullseyes. We all have them. That's the thing that we're most vulnerable to, that's what stress is going to go after.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
The weakest spot in the body usually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tina Lamar,
Hello.
founder of Sheltered Yoga.
That's it.
So we have to ask, what's the sheltered part of that, sheltered yoga?
It is that we do work in shelters. Some of the locations we're in are shelters. Some are emergency shelters where it's they can only be there overnight, and then they have to leave during the day. Some of the shelters is a full day kind of residential shelter, but short term. We also that expanded to group homes, like that young boy was speaking about, where he was in a group home before he was was placed into a home. We are in transitional housing facilities, day programs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I know yoga as sort of a stress reduction technique. Is that really what it was originally intended for? Or was it a way for women to get away from their husbands? What was the
In
real
America, that
what's
might
the
be what it
real
is.
thing?
In America, I think it's that.
Yeah.
But no, you know what? I love this question. If anyone asks me anything remotely close to it, because I love to tell the idea of what yoga really is, which is a union of three different things. If you're talking about this specific kind of yoga, Raja Yoga, it is breathing techniques, it is stretching, and it's meditation. But really, the breathing and the stretching is there to get you to a stronger meditative space. So yoga is really about meditating, and everything else is, ancillary to bring you to that. Yeah.
And meditation, of course, a huge ingredient in stress reduction.
Huge. Yeah. And now a lot of scientific evidence backing it up, finally. There was a lot before, but it was a bit, kind of like...
Yeah, I noticed in your materials, you use the phrase evidence-based.
Yeah.
Which is the big buzzword of the day.
It is.
You can't get money from anybody unless Unless you can say evidence-based.
Yeah.
You know,
We-
you can't sell chocolate bars, you know,
I know,
on the
right?
street corner unless you can say these chocolate bars are proven evidence-based to have sugar.
That's right. It's evidence based. I'm saying that in two different ways. I'm saying it that meditation, yoga, and now everything is evidence based. You have a lot of science behind it, but the other end of it is that I don't know. Are we on to this thing? Because
I don't know if they're going to see that.
Okay.
It's kind of a wide shot.
So, Sheltered Yoga has a curriculum that I put together over many years, and that I also call evidence-based because we
It's okay,
do
Greg. She
pre-
can
and
camera zoomed in.
post-testing in all of our classes. We put that into those evaluations. Here we go.
Can you zoom in on that? This is a big, thick book. It's almost
really-
a shame that 39,000 people are listening on the radio and can't see this. This is a heavy book.
It's really heavy.
I actually
Yeah,
need two
gosh.
hands to hold it up. That's how heavy it is. This is the curriculum you've developed
Yes,
over
and
how many years?
oh gosh, it's 15 years of development. It's so long.
And
It's just pieces and pieces of wisdom along the way, along with all of my
Lesson plans. It's
Yeah.
for children. This is mostly for children, yes?
and adults. It's actually spans a big group.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm looking at dealing with conflict scenarios.
we have actually a lesson, a section in there on change, a whole section, and it's important. It's a major thing.
Oh, it is.
It's so huge because we're control freaks. A lot of us, like, we want to control whatever we can so that we can we know the result, we know how to respond, and then when things change, it gets really difficult for people. So yeah, and then you're talking about that young man, like, moving 10 times
At
or something.
least.
Right.
Yeah, every 6 months. they
Yeah,
move.
there's a lot. I know in a lot of the locations that we're in that, let's say a group home, a kid will be in a group home, maybe 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, maybe even a little bit more until they find a foster home or a step down program for them. And the minute that they know that they're told that they are going to leave and go to the next program, usually it's like a week or two before they leave, sabotage central.
Yeah.
They
go to
just
Houston.
it's out of control, and you have to just understand that that's part of it, for all of the people that are working in the house. But it's really difficult. I mean, they will, whether it's self-inflicted or it's inflicted within the framework of the house.
Tina, you know what it is, and I think this is really important for people to understand, is that kids, all of us, develop what I call survival tools.
Yeah.
And having worked in women's trauma programs, my survival tool, I was stealing alcohol at age 14. And the reason is because I'd overheard a conversation and figured out that my dad was dying, because nobody in the family told me that my dad was even sick.
You weren't allowed to talk about it.
So the alcohol became my survival tool.
Right.
I mean, I even took it to school with me. I mean, I was
Yeah.
ridiculous with it. And I was pretty lucky because at the end of the year, basketball rolled around. I ended up winning an award
Oh.
as I walked down the bleachers intoxicated, which was hard enough just to do them sober. But my life changed in that moment because two thoughts. One was maybe I could be good at this, and the other one was maybe I could use this to go to college, because my dad had actually just died the month before.
Wow.
I was really lucky, but I've spent 27 years working with adults who took their survival tools from when they were young into their adult lives.
Sure.
And for
Yeah.
me, the work was swapping them out, which those
Yeah.
are the survival tools. That the behavior
Yeah.
is just, kind of like almost like an autopilot that takes over, because it's just how they've had to survive change
Yeah.
in the past. And
Yeah.
particularly around any type of acting out behaviors or self-harming behaviors. it's really kind of understanding and helping them kind
Yeah.
of see. I personally think it sucks you only get 2 weeks, because if you could have a little bit of more process,
Yeah.
you know?
So these behaviors that manifest is cutting and alcoholism, are they essentially the same thing as being
For different
results?
for different people, they could be.
Yeah.
You know, it might be easier for somebody to get into recovery away from alcohol or other drugs, but for somebody else, it might be harder because that's their go-to tool. That's what helped
Right.
them. Think about what I love to use is Oprah as an example. You know, her weight. She struggled and struggled and struggled, and she finally had success when she realized she used food as her tool, and it went back to when she suffered abuse as a young
yeah.
girl. And so we grab at things growing up,
Yeah.
and that's, when you don't have much else, it
Yeah.
really is survival. And
Yeah,
that makes sense to me, Tina, what you're saying.
So-
Yeah, one of the things we do with sheltered yoga and the curriculum and lesson plans is try and help to change those tools to be something much healthier.
Yeah.
So do you go into schools?
Yeah, we're in schools. We're in. We work with a lot of teens and preteens and young adults that are in schools also. Some are in alternative schools. Some are in like more detention-based school, like almost like prison-type schools, and some are in public matriculation. But yeah, but they, it's amazing because we've been doing this for years. Before it became so viral on Facebook, the meditation replacing detention.
Okay.
We did that a lot. I've been doing that for years before I didn't think about putting it on Facebook and making it go viral, but that was whoever thought of that was a good idea.
No, it's all about
Yeah.
the marketing, huh?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
speaking of that, before we
good.
go further, I do need to thank all the people who made donations to Age Out Angels this week. We thank you so very much for your generosity. If you have an employee giving fund or matching gifts foundation associated with your place of work, we would certainly appreciate your contacting us and telling us how we can participate in that. Private message me on Facebook or email to greg@ageoutangels.org. And I want to remind everyone that you can donate to Age Out Angels every time you make a purchase from Amazon. All you have to do is designate Age Out Angels to be your Amazon Smile designee, and a portion of your payment will go to Age Out Angels without it costing you 1 penny more. I can make it easy for you to designate Age Out Angels as your Amazon Smile recipient. All you have to do is contact me either via Facebook or greg@ageoutangels.org, and I can send you a link that will take you directly to our designation. Back now with Carol Rickard, stressologist, and Tina Lamar, founder of Sheltered Yoga. So, Carol, tell us how we can relieve stress in 60 seconds.
Well, it's actually a 2-step process.
Okay.
So for 60 seconds or 30 seconds, you have to first do something calming, followed by 30 seconds of something active.
Okay.
So think of the soda bottle that I was telling you about. If you shake it up, first thing you got to do is stop the shaking.
Right.
So calming is anything that doesn't require any muscles.
Okay.
So meditating,
So we're going to
Listening to
pretend that
music?
you're calming yourselves at home because
Yeah.
that would be terrible radio.
listening to music,
Mhm.
activities, things that don't do that. And then the second step,
Where's your mind while that's going on? Is your mind? Is it?
it's still with you.
You know what I'm saying? Because usually a big part of stress is the mind is just racing. It's thinking of everything, what just happened, what's going to happen, what this person said, what I should have said, what that
But that's
happened.
the idea of the calming, that you got to find something that's going to anchor you in a calm. And for everybody, it's different.
Could be different.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. It is for everybody. One of mine that I use, because I honestly believe, too, is you better have tools that you can use any minute, at any moment, anywhere. So let me give you one of mine. I love the Serenity Prayer.
No, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Good.
I'm stuck in traffic. So the short version is, can I do anything about it right now? And if I can't, I got to say no. But that's got to be followed up. So you want to know what I did driving here? Because I was a little stressed out coming.
I gave such good
No,
directions.
Your directions were great. It was actually the traffic, because that's the thing you don't get to control. And I knew
Right.
where I was coming.
Right.
And I know the traffic can be horrible around here. So what I did was I had something playing in music that was really, for me, calming. Might have irritated somebody else. And then I was playing the air piano on my steering wheel, because anything that requires muscle is the release. That's
Yeah.
the
So, all right. So, is the
That's good.
first of all, it's hard to get here for this show because you're supposed to be here at 5:30, and voila, you're in the state capitol's rush hour traffic.
Yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
we all go through that
Yep.
every week. But here's the thing: you were like in plenty of time.
Yeah. I build in lost
You
time.
know, like
Because here's the other way to think about stress. It's like laundry. You can end up with this big old pile, right?
right.
But you can put stuff in the pile that doesn't necessarily need to go in there. And so when I travel someplace new, I always build in extra time to get lost.
Yeah.
So I'm not stressed,
Uh-huh.
But the change being, I mean, this is such a great show. It was even just the excitement that we were talking about. So it was that positive.
Sure.
So it's kind of, how do you channel that so that while you're driving, you don't honk your horn or want to run over the person in front of you?
Right. Yeah. Especially in Florida where they shoot back.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So, all right. So that's the first part, is to find a calming.
A calming, something that you
something.
can do and access. And here's the thing, and Tina knows this, I call it stress kryptonite, but that's breath, oxygen.
Yeah.
And the fact is that when you are doing yoga breathing, you're actually getting more air into the bottom of your lungs, because that's the loading dock.
Gotcha.
I also am a laughter yoga leader. And so that's the idea behind laughter yoga, is you increase the oxygen,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
oxygen is what neutralizes some of the stress hormones in your brain.
What makes you stressed, Tina? What are things that stress
God.
you out? And this is the segment we call putting Tina on the spot.
What makes me stressed? Oh my gosh. Payroll.
Yeah, there you go. There's a good one for a CEO. of an
payroll
organization.
taxes.
Yeah.
April 15.
All right. That makes me stressed.
The day-to-day of running a company, huh?
Yeah. Managing people, like making, feeling if you're doing a good job or not. Making sure you have all, you should be in like the 10 places at once that you're supposed to be in
Yeah.
as a nonprofit, executive director. There's a lot. It's a
So, I
lot.
mean, I say that assuming that you're a master of relieving that stress.
I was just talking about this because I was actually like all the way up in North Jersey this morning doing this like stress relieving seminar thing for
Right.
therapists.
Then you shot a truck driver on your way.
Right. On the way there and back. No. And, it's really, we have so many things coming at us now. So much more than we did.
Overstimuli, yeah.
Yeah, so much more than we did. And, people who maybe never even had an issue with instant gratification and, getting the news immediately, that you're like kind of get rolled right into it and you want to know everything immediately. Like I had someone text me on the way back, not that I was like reading and texting on my phone, but like I'm at a stoplight, I see this text come up and it's like, Notre Dame in France is burning.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, like, you know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to pull over and look at images? Like, and then what do I do? Like, what do I,
Yeah.
And I think yoga and meditation really, it helps you to kind of like prioritize your stress. And so it allows you to understand what is good stress and what is bad stress. And then it also, I was saying this morning, I used to have like a lot of one of the reasons why I started doing yoga and meditation is because I for a lot of people out there, I'm like, and I'm sure you have the same issues, that anxiety that went to panic attacks, that went to agoraphobia, which is not always about being stuck in the house, it's about being stuck anywhere.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was a prisoner of my own mind because I was stressed about the stress and stressed about the anxiety. So you get into this snowball effect that eventually doesn't go away, and then physically and mentally it was affecting me. After I started, I'll just give you one example. Like after I started practicing yoga and meditation, within like a year and a half, I grew an inch in my like late teens, early 20s when I started because I was malnourished. I had malnourished myself from being so sick
Stress.
all the time from
Wow,
stress.
you had a growth spurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And so like it really is so it's crazy how it affects you. And so, now I just, things come up and I'm the get it out quickly, put it on the table and then move on. And, and I think yoga and meditation, like it really, I should say, I'm saying yoga and meditation, but it's really one thing, but it's really, it helps me to prioritize what I need to really say something about and what I don't, what I need to, what you have to like put your 2 cents into and what you don't.
And where your energy belongs.
Right. And it's huge because if you don't have that, right, you start,
All over.
your energy's everywhere and you're exhausted halfway through the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny too that you should mention that story that came up today about the cathedral
Yeah.
in France, because when I saw that, I was in the middle of 32 things, right?
Right.
When someone came into my office and said, "Look," show me their phone.
Right.
Look, Notre Dame is burning, and but it sets up a conflict of feelings, because the first reaction is, get out of my office. What are you thinking coming in and disturbing me now, right? So that's mean. And then the second thing is, oh, wait a minute, though. I'm such a jerk. I should feel something for these poor, there must be people there. There's got to be, it's their building is
Yeah.
burning. Why am I so insensitive? So like all these feelings churn up, and I don't even know anything about the story at that point. I just know,
Right.
I just know I've been a jerk on several fronts.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
minding my own business like 2 seconds before.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
this intrusion came into your
Yeah.
orbit, and
Yeah.
then it was like,
Yeah.
oh, and what you described was really, I was thinking, is your yoga, your meditation practice has helped you to be able to focus, and you focus that attention
Right.
on what needs it and what doesn't need it. And
You
I
know-
think that's important.
And this is another thing I was talking about this morning because I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD until I was in one of my master's programs. And the dean of that master's program had ADHD, and she was like, "Whoa, come over here. We're going to go get you tested." And I was just like,
See, I gotta tell you,
I don't know what she saw, but I was like, so I did. They paid for all this testing for me at the college, and I was like off the chart, but I was one of those kids growing up where it was like, you when you're in like elementary, middle school, high school, where you have to start reading books, I would get the book and start sweating immediately, and I would read the first paragraph like at home in a quiet space so I could focus like
Yeah.
25 times,
Right.
and
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
still not be able to tell you what I read. And it was only that I did meditation that allowed me the focus, the availability to focus and concentrate, that allows me to be able to like read a book anywhere now and tell you what it's about.
Carol, where can people go to buy your books?
Oh, well, they are on Barnes & Noble and Amazon
Okay.
.com.
And tell us some of the titles.
Well, I've spent 27 years working in hospitals. So what I've taught is I have a great book on anger and a unique approach to that. We have 60 Seconds to Less Stress, Stress Busters for Kids, Transforming Illness to Wellness, because I myself am a person living well with a mental illness, and, kind of shared my process. We have self-care for those who care for others. Yeah,
Very stressful, yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that self-care, but how to make it be a part of your, again, all of my approaches are you don't have to have a lot of time, because when you're a caregiver or you're running a company as a CEO, a nonprofit,
Yeah.
for-profit, you know what? Doesn't have to be a little bit of time. In fact, let me ask you all this question. Do you save pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters ever?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, got a little thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So what people sometimes discount is the littlest things because, oh, well, that's nothing.
Mm.
But the truth is, it's all those little nothings that add up.
Oh,
adds,
yeah.
Adds up to
So,
toll money. Yep.
Yeah. So if your self-care is you take 1 minute for yourself and the whole rest of the day taking care of other people, well, you did that 1 minute for yourself.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But actually, the easiest way is to go to Amazon.com, and then it's a /author, and then a /Carol and Rickard, Rickard.
Okay.
And
so
they can find them all in one place.
Amazon.com.
Yep.
Right.
//
author
/ Carol,
Carol.
Carol, Rickard,
Rickard.
Rickard.
Rickard. There's an echo in here.
Yeah.
Great. It's wonderful having you on the show. And Tina, where can people go to find out more about you?
We are at shelteredyoga.org. It's sheltered with an ED, yoga.org. And the curriculum that I wrote that Sheltered Yoga uses, we do teacher trainings for it. So if you check out our website, you'll see when our upcoming training will be when we post
Okay.
that. And we have, I have to say this, we have an event coming up June 10th, and it's a golf and spa event. So everybody goes out and plays golf. There's another whole area within the clubhouse where there's a whole spa going on.
Oh.
Really relaxing.
Okay.
A lot of fun stuff happening.
Yeah.
You can buy tickets online. You can go on the website and see it.
Where's it going to be?
Oh, good. Very good, Carol.
Augusta.
I know. We are going to take a train. We're going to rent a van. No. It's Burlington Country Club.
Great.
Not far from
Wonderful.
here.
No.
Not far.
Yeah.
from
Not at
here
all.
Okay. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank
It's
you so
great
much for
you
having
here.
me. It was
You
fun.
bet. I did want to finish up the thought from earlier in the show, and you guys are welcome to chime in here if you have any thoughts on the subject. I did notice I didn't get any comments on Facebook, so everybody's, I'm sure, waiting with bated breath to hear my opinion. But we got 29 shares tonight. And I want to thank you
Oh, nice.
so much.
Woohoo.
29 shares is like a
Excellent.
super duper Facebook record here.
All right.
So Tatiana is listening, and Jacques is out there listening. And I thank you so very much for tuning into the program. Tony is listening. Michael is listening. Okay. So thing is that people are homeless for a lot of reasons. And they're not all the reasons that a lot of people think they're homeless. I was actually homeless once for about 6 months when I was 11 because we were in a horrible car accident. My parents were stuck in a hospital in Georgia. We were shipped up north to live with relatives, and some of them are nice and some of them are psycho. So, and that's how it is, when you
Yeah.
get sent into a foster family,
Right.
a lot of them are nice, some of them are insane. That's just how it goes, and you either get kicked out or you have to get out. So there's a lot of reasons to be homeless that aren't I'm lazy, right?
Yes.
And so I heard a story from a girl last week who really the question was, who made an influence on you in your life? And she thought, and she remembered a woman in the shelter that she was living in when she was younger, right? And she said that woman was so full of wisdom that she could listen to her for hours and hours and hours. And the thought that was running through my head was, it was probably therapeutic for her to have that at that point in her life, right?
Yep.
But that woman was living in a shelter. She's not going to be able to teach you how to get out of that shelter.
Right.
That's,
She can only teach you
know,
what she's
and,
at.
and so that I found that, a lot of the times when you see people fall in life, it's taking guidance from the wrong sources.
Yes.
That sort of takes them down. So, but here's the point: if you're homeless long enough, living day to day, just living day to day, surviving the things that you have to do to survive, become tradecraft.
Yeah.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
become professional
Yeah.
at deceiving people, finding a place to shower, stealing food without getting caught. You actually become professional at
Yeah.
knowing where the money is, where the clothing is, right?
You're surviving.
And
Your
you're
survival's
surviving,
dependent on
and
it.
you have to. But it becomes craft
Yes.
at that point. And so
Yeah.
then the question rears its ugly head. If you do that long enough, does it become then impossible, for you to change that? Because that behavior is now, that's what you do for a living.
I don't think I think you can change because I think you can because that's a survival those are survival techniques at that time that you're forced into doing. I mean, if you were to ask people who are homeless, and we have homeless shelters, but I think, if you have stability, if you have like a job that you really like, and when they're transitioning maybe eventually into their own apartment, it's either that it's going to be a total self-sabotage situation, or they're going to be so scared to screw up that they're never going to do all those things that they know will get them
Back in the shelter.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what homeless youth said to me. They said it completely depends on the individual.
Yeah.
Some people are just going to adapt into that lifestyle, and they're going to go that way, and they're going to tell you why you're wrong,
Yeah.
for trying to talk them out of it. And that's just it. And they work as hard as anybody else does, if not harder, just spinning wheels in quicksand.
Yeah.
And other people will tell you that they crawl over glass for a chance. Just to
but
have an
because
opportunity
they're ready,
to be out of that
because
life.
they're ready.
Yeah.
The ones that are trying to convince you that what they're doing is working,
Yeah.
they're not ready. They don't know, they're still running and gunning. They're living in
They
it.
can't
Yep.
see it.
Yeah.
Here's the point, though,
Yeah.
from a mentor's perspective, right? From a mentor's perspective, I think what you have to keep in mind is that if the person that you're mentoring comes out of that life and finds themselves in college and goes on to get an MBA and run a major multinational company, and I'm thinking of my old friend Bobby Danzig, who passed away, who came out of the foster care system and became the CEO of Hearst Newspapers.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So if your youth becomes that, or if
Wow.
your youth just goes on and keeps spinning wheels,
Right.
and moves laterally through life, one thing that I wholeheartedly believe is true is that you've made an incredibly good impression on that person for the amount of time that you've gotten to know them. And that if they're sitting in jail one day, they're going to remember there was that one lady or that one man, who made me feel like I was supported unconditionally there
Yeah.
for a
Right.
while.
Yeah.
I think of it as a seed. You know that mentor becomes that seed, that's
Very
been
much, yeah.
planted.
Absolutely.
And working in a field where the same patients come back and come back. Guess what? I've always said if it took 100 times and on 101, it was the
Right.
That's the one, the
aha.
magic one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should never, ever, ever underestimate the
Yeah.
impact that you can
That you
have on
have.
a person,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
even if they're cursing at you and telling you to
Yeah.
go F off.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Even if you're getting the
It's-
opposite in feedback. Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely
yeah.
true. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another hour talking about youth
Mm-hmm.
who should matter more in our political and economic discourse than they do. And we thank you so much for tuning in. And 29 of you who hit that share button on Facebook, I love every one of you. Thank you so much. Again, we offer humble thanks to Hamilton Radio. It's our second day in a brand new studio, and I think Ruben and Robin
Ooh.
did a yeoman's job
Yeah. Very good.
in putting this show on. We thank you so much. The music playing us in and out is by Angel Fire, a band from South Jersey. Our webmaster is Carmen Garcia Valera. Our social media specialist is Bailey Braverman. Join me next Monday, April 15th. Full studio. Ratisha Berthier will be here, a trauma therapist, and we'll continue our discussion about housing with Kalaine Tarantelli and Sarah Torian. So until then, let's make this week the best week ever. And now in the studio, Dr. Felicia Nace, getting ready to start her show called The Argument. What's the theme this week?
So the theme this
I can hear you, but I wonder if your mic is live.
Testing. Thank you for sharing. So our theme this week, and thank you for that great introduction, by the way, and I loved your show tonight.
Thanks.
I mean, we do have to definitely be concerned about those who are aging out. Right?
Yeah,
and what
yeah.
happens, and they pour into society, and I think you do such a great systemic job of
Thank
pulling
you.
it all together.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So what are you gonna
Show
talk about?
tonight, religion and bullying. The decline of religion in education and the increase in bullying and the anger. And so I'm just going to take a look at it, and I'm going to let my audience decide, is there a link there?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great show.
That boy that was just committed suicide because he was being bullied.
There's every day there's a story. Yes.
I don't know why the one this week is so big, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a girl who was killed by her classmates, young girl, 10 years old, was killed by her classmate about 2 weeks ago. This is commonplace in our
Yes.
society now.
Yeah.
So I'll let my audience decide.
All right. Dr. Felicia Nace and The Argument right now on Hamilton Radio. Stay right where you are.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, good evening and welcome to HamiltonRadio.net again. You have a great lineup between the Age Out Angels, between my show, and then we have an inspiration show that follows mine as well. So, welcome again to The Argument. And I'm looking for you guys to call in tonight